Welcome back to Speargrass Forge. If you're new here, thanks for coming. If you're coming back, thanks for returning. Today, I'm going to be attempting to make one of the recipes I was shown for Blacksmiths Black, otherwise known as Blacksmiths Finished or Blacksmiths Goop. Stick around.
We're bound for South Australia. Pave away, you roller kings. Pave away, all away. Pave away, you'll hear me sing. We're bound for South Australia.
Okie dokie, so this recipe calls for basically 1 to 1 to 1 of beeswax, gum turpentine and boiled linseed oil. This recipe is to be used outside. It's for finishing for things that aren't going to come in contact with food. So that's the reason for the boiled linseed oil, which is not food safe because of the dryers that it has in it. And the gum turpentine. Now, in the future I will make a video on something that I was shown that is food safe, a very similar recipe that is food safe that you can use on food stuff, and we'll get to that later on. But for now, this is something that I want to make up, I want to have in the forge so that I can make stuff later on. Now, it's just using a double boiler. I've got about 100 grams of pure beeswax here. Just going to use a knife and just going to, maybe don't need tiny chunks, but I'm just going to chunk this off so it makes it a little bit easier. Now you can get this stuff in pellet form, which of course makes it easier. It makes it easier to melt. I could only get it in block form, of course. Doesn't matter how you get it. This comes with a warning. Don't do this over an open flame. Melting the wax isn't so bad, but with the gum turpentine it is flammable, so not a good idea to put that over an open flame. Oops. So this is just for melting it down. This is the double boiler. I don't have an actual double boiler, so this is just a stainless steel mixing bowl full of hot water with another pot basically just floating on the top, so that as it boils it can melt the wax. Break it off, snap it off. Now I say I was taught this, or told this recipe many years ago. That was, as I've said previously, growing up I had the fortune of knowing blacksmith by the name of Reg. Great guy, and in my notes, going through my old notes a little while back now, I came across the recipes that he'd once upon a time told me. So this is the easiest one. It's equal parts beeswax, boiled linseed oil and gum turpentine. Well, you've got it now, you don't need to continue watching the video of you. But I'll do this, so I'll go through the process so you guys can see how it turns out and how I do it. Now of course, while making this is a second-hand pot that I got for $1 from some Vinnies, or St. Vincent de Paul Society, which is one of the op shops, what do you call them? The thrift shop. That's what it's one of the things it's called. They sell all sorts of donated goods. So go pop in there, buy a second hand. It's just going to be used in here for use in the forge and stuff like that for this type of activity. So there's no point in buying, $1.15 pot. And don't use your missus' good cookware. She will have your hide for it. Look like it's just starting to melt a little bit. Not really all that much, but a little bit. So, that's that done. I'll let that melt down. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so now my wax is melted down. 100 grams of beeswax. I'm adding 100 grams of pure gum turpentine and 100 grams of boiled linseed oil. Now, I do this by weight because that was how I was taught, and I do it in the pot so it's still nice and hot so it mixes together. I did see that some people do it by volume, so you know, 1 cup of beeswax to 1 cup of boiled linseed oil. That may be better. I haven't tried those methods. You know, perhaps it's just a little bit of experimentation. So I put it in here and stir it constantly, just to mix it together and make sure it's all together. Now, do this in a well-ventilated area. It is fairly strong. Now, gum turpentine in Australia comes in 1 litre bottles, but it's eucalyptus scented. So I think it's made from eucalyptus trees here in Australia. I'm not 100% sure. At the end of the day, it's still turpentine, gum turpentine, made with the same stuff. It's just a carrier. It should evaporate off when actually in use. But they're just stirring this to melt it all together until it's all nice and clear. It does have a fairly pungent aroma. I'm just using a stick to stir it because, you know, don't want to mess up any good utensils. I'll just move the camera so you can see me pour it into my storage jars. Just using an old oil can lid just as a bit of a tray, so if I spill any it doesn't end up on my workbench. So it's all nice and clear. Some in a bigger jar, some in a smaller jar, so I have a bit easier access to it. Perhaps if they don't have any tins like other people do, and, you know, tins with a lid, so let it cool down and condense, and we'll see how that goes. Just transfer a little bit more into that so it's nice and full for when I use it. Touch warm. Alright, so that's nice and full, and I've got half a jar so I can stick a paintbrush or something in there to get the rest out later on. That's what it looks like when it dries off a bit, a pasty sort of stuff. This is also an old recipe for wood polish as well, so it can be used as wood polish. Okay, so this is a piece of Australian ironwood, native to where I live in the tropics, also known as Cooktown ironwood. So I'm just grabbing a bit of this stuff off the thing here, so I'm just going to apply it as a wood polish. Now this hasn't been sanded or buffed or anything like that. This is still basically as rough as when I cut it with the chainsaw. So don't mind the fluffy stuff on the actual timber when after applying it with this cloth. So this has a natural reddy type colour, deep maroon to red type colour. So as you can see, it leaves a nice sheen on it, and of course it soaks in and the wax protects it as well. So it can be used on wood or steel. Put on steel, you know, cold or hot. Let's see if I can grab a piece of okay, so this is just a bending jig that I made up for a project that I've got coming up. So it's just a couple of pieces of angle iron and some bar as pins. So This is a good protectant. It's not going. This isn't going anywhere near food or anything like that. So it's not hot. This isn't blackening because it's not real. It's not hot. Don't need to protect it like that. So just wipe it on. Just gives it a nice sheen. All I've done is wire brushed it off. My welding's slowly getting better. It's not as much gorilla snot nowadays. It's a little bit less knotty. Right. And just the same thing on the other side. Grab a little bit extra of the remaining stuff off this lid here. And just the same thing. Just wipe over. This is without. Wipe it on. You can use this stuff fairly sparingly. That's with it. So there we go. Use on timber and on steel. That's kind of what it looked like. I've of course got a little bit on the back. That's what timber looked like without it, and with a little bit of the polish on. Like I said, this is just a rough piece of wood, just to show you the difference. Just another example. So there, we'll just rub it in. Just with the finger, and it makes the timber pop a little bit more. And remember, don't leave this scrunched up because it can self-ignite. So there we have it, the recipe for my version of Blacksmith Black. The recipe will be just linked down in the description, and I will also in the description I'll convert it to imperial, so you'll have not only the metric and in the grams, but or you know, the by weight conversion that I made it, but also it'll be in ounces, just down in the description as well. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and also check out my previous video and the link to the playlist just here. Again, thanks for coming, and you have a great day. Cheers.